Imagine a single line of code that can break steel, stop hospitals, and bankrupt nations. Cut to close-up of an old analog clock, its second hand twitching. Not a bomb, not a missile. A whisper of software released into the veins of our machines. Flash of headlines spinning, systems down. Ransom demands, industry halted. They called it cyber war. Others call it the most destructive hack ever used. Deep inhale. Pause. This is not fiction. These are real stories, real victims, and a new kind of weapon. Black screen. Title: When Code Became a Weapon. A heartbeat. Then a voice. Which attack caused the most damage? The answer is complicated and terrifying. Cut to slow montage, empty hospital corridor, silent factory floor, flickering ATM screens. Today we trace 4 attacks that prove code can kill economies. Cripple services and alter geopolitics. Names appear briefly. Stuxnet, WannaCry, NotPetya, Mirai. Each left a trail of human cost. Each rewrote the rules of modern conflict. Soft piano. A single line of white text. We begin where the line blurred between sabotage and war. Cut to desert plant and metal machines. In 2010, something unprecedented escaped into the world. Close up on a centrifuge spinning in slow motion. A computer worm that didn't just steal data, it sabotaged physical machines. Codenamed Stuxnet, it targeted industrial control systems inside a nuclear facility. No explosions on the surface. No headlines of smoke and fire. Yet equipment was twisted, bearings burned, plans shattered. Slow zoom on an engineer staring at a failed machine. Here's the stark truth. For the first time, software manipulated physical actions with lethal precision. Cut to map. Dotted line from unknown to Iran. Stuxnet taught the world a dangerous lesson. Code could reach into the physical world and inflict silent, deliberate damage. Some called it a surgical strike. Others called it an escalator for a new arms race. Dark tone, then a sudden jump to hospital lights. 7 years later, in May 2017, a single outbreak swept across continents. Quick cuts, a hospital reception desk, a doctor holding a clipboard, an ambulance outside. WannaCry, a ransomware storm that froze systems in dozens of countries. Operating rooms delayed, patient records locked, ambulances redirected, lives put on hold. Over 200,000 computers were affected in more than 150 countries. A morning where waiting rooms turned into war rooms. A thin voice. It didn't demand complex payment from governments only, it hit ordinary people. Flash of images, an elderly patient, a cashier staring at a frozen register. Hospitals in the UK's NHS felt the sting immediately. Critical services curtailed, appointments cancelled. The human cost was real. Cut to news clippings, hospitals disrupted, ransomware hits Europe. But WannaCry's damage wasn't just medical. It exposed how deeply vulnerable modern life is when networks go dark. Screen glitches. A digital clock freezes at 12:24. 2 weeks after WannaCry, an even more destructive wave rolled out. Text, June 2017, NotPetya. Cut to shipping containers and warehouses. NotPetya looked like ransomware, but it behaved like a weapon. Instead of trying to collect money, it spread ruthlessly, corrupted systems, and erased data. An office worker watches as files vanish. Companies lost access to critical financial records, logistics halted, factories stopped. Banks scrambled. The hit was global, but the epicenter was a tax software update in one country, and that update became a delivery system for destruction. A voiceover. Estimates of economic loss climbed into the billions. NotPetya didn't discriminate. It hit multinationals, shipping giants, pharmaceutical producers, anyone in the path. Cut to empty storefronts, halted assembly lines, container ships idling. This attack taught another harsh lesson. Collateral damage from cyber weapons isn't contained by borders. An act aimed at one nation can rip through the global economy in hours. Low drumbeat switched to chaotic network map visuals. And then there was Mirai, a different kind of weapon, but destructive in its own terrifying way. Image, a sea of tiny devices. Mirai exploited millions of ordinary devices, cameras, routers, DVRs, to form an army. It turned household gadgets into an unstoppable flood of traffic. Cut to the lights of a data center flickering. In October 2016, Mirai launched DDoS attacks that brought down major services. Websites vanished from the internet map. Close up, a journalist refreshing a blank news site. Businesses lost customers, newsrooms lost access. A single coordinated attack made large parts of the web unreachable. Mirai revealed how the smallest devices, when corrupted, can become instruments of mass disruption. Soft, haunting melody. Montage of faces, engineers, nurses, truck drivers. These 4 attacks are different in method, but similar in consequence. Ordinary life interrupted, trust eroded, economies wounded. Cut to a split screen comparing impacts, altered machinery, stalled surgeries, erased books, offline websites. Which of these was the most destructive? The voice deepens. It depends on how you measure destruction. Text on screen. Physical damage, financial loss. Human risk, systemic shock. For physical sabotage. Stuxnet's impact is unique because it targeted critical infrastructure and manipulated physical processes. But its aim was limited and surgical, designed to avoid catastrophic civilian casualties. For wide-scale human impact and disruption of essential services, WannaCry hit hospitals and clinics, directly endangering patients. For economic devastation and targeted crippling of corporate systems, NotPetya stands out. Insurers, shipping companies, and manufacturers reported staggering losses. And for proof that everyday devices can be weaponized to cripple the internet itself, Mirai was the wake-up call, cut to an old hand turning a page in a ledger. Yet the question of most destructive has another angle: long-term consequences. NotPetya cost billions and shut supply chains for months. The financial ripples were felt in earnings reports and failed deadlines. WannaCry instigated a massive reevaluation of healthcare cybersecurity. Some hospitals changed their entire IT approach after it. Stuxnet changed doctrine among nations. The idea that code can be used to achieve strategic military goals became normalized. Mirai forced manufacturers and consumers to rethink the safety of the Internet of Things, a slow reveal, a courtroom sketch. And remember, behind every statistic there are people, a technician who lost years of work, a surgical team forced to postpone care, a driver who couldn't get payroll. These attacks aren't just lines on a balance sheet. They rewrite lives. Cut to a dim control room. Monitors show forensic teams investigating. Investigations followed each attack, fingers pointed, attributions debated. Stuxnet was linked to a state-level operation. NotPetya was widely attributed to geopolitical actors. WannaCry was connected to known cybercriminal groups. But attribution doesn't undo the damage. And it raises dark questions about retaliation, escalation, and accountability. A ticking clock overlays a globe. In a world where software can be a weapon, how do we protect ourselves? How do nations respond? The answer is multi-layered. Better defenses, international law, cooperation across borders. But these are slow remedies for a rapidly changing threat. Quick cuts, cybersecurity teams patching, engineers rebooting systems, law enforcement seizing servers. After these attacks, companies invested heavily in security. Governments drafted new policies and international coalitions discussed norms. Yet, attackers adapt. New vulnerabilities emerge. The race between offense and defense is relentless. A brief, intimate shot of a family at dinner, phones on the table. Think of the devices around you: a camera on a shelf, a router under your desk, a connected thermostat. Each can be a point of entry if neglected. This is not to blame the victim. It's to highlight a fragile reality, slow, increasing tension. The voice comes closer. There is another danger, the temptation to normalize these attacks. Once a weapon is used, others adopt, refine, and deploy. The path from a proof of concept to routine tactic can be short. A single hack that demonstrates destructive potential becomes a template for more. Cut to archival footage of boardrooms and emergency meetings. Policymakers and CAOs now face dilemmas: disclose breaches and face reputational damage, or hide them and risk amplified harm. Transparency can save lives. Silence can cost them, a short, poignant pause. Then, but hope remains. Engineers are designing systems with resilience in mind. Companies are building redundant networks. Nations are signing agreements on cyber norms, even if imperfectly. Awareness has grown. The general public talks about cyber hygiene in ways rare 10 years ago. Cut to a young coder teaching children, a classroom with laptops. Education is powerful. When people understand risks, when manufacturers design responsibly, the surface for attack shrinks. Regulation can force minimum standards. Cooperation can make cross-border investigations faster. Dark rewind, screens flash images from the 4 attacks. Still, the underlying truth is unsettling. Our dependence on connected systems is growing faster than the protections around them. Every new network device is an opportunity for convenience and for exploitation. A single line of text. So what should you take away? First, cyber weapons are real and they cause real harm. Second, destruction comes in many forms. Physical damage, financial ruin, human suffering, and the erosion of trust. Third, no single incident holds every answer. Stuxnet, WannaCry, NotPetya, and Mirai each taught different lessons, all costly. Close-up of a hand typing a password, then deleting it and setting a longer one. Practical steps matter. Keep systems updated, back up important data, and pressure manufacturers for secure defaults. Avoiding risk is not paranoia, it's preparedness. Cut to a wide shot of a busy city at night, lights blinking like code. And for nations, the stakes are geopolitical. Without clear norms and accountability, the possibility of dangerous escalation grows. Imagine a future where an attack on a water treatment plant is met with cyber retaliation, and the response escalates into something broader. That future is not inevitable, but possible, a reflective beat. The voice softens. The most destructive hack ever used is not one single name we can crown. It is the pattern that emerges when code is used without rules. Industries stop, hospitals falter, economies bleed, and ordinary lives fracture. Montage, families reunited, engineers rebuilding systems, courts prosecuting criminals. And yet humans rebuild, we adapt. We create better defenses and harder questions. The question now is whether we learn quickly enough. Fade into a final frame. A dim server room, a single blinking light steady as a heartbeat. Remember this, the weapons of tomorrow may not explode, but they can still break the things that keep us safe. Treat that knowledge not as fear, but as fuel for action. End card. Which attack shocked you the most? Comment below. Subtext. If you want a full documentary-style breakdown of any of these attacks, Stuxnet, WannaCry, NotPetya, or Mirai, I'll make it next. Subscribe and hit the bell. Short credits roll. Script research from public reports and verified news. Final whisper. When code becomes a weapon, the human cost is the clearest casualty.